Remember when Google Translate came out and we all kind of thought, oh, gee, maybe this is the end of English language teaching. Could it be? Well, that didn't happen. Then a couple of years or a few years later, along came DuoLingo. And I remember myself playing with DuoLingo and thinking, oh my goodness, this is brilliant. I'm going to be fluent and proficient in several languages by the end of the year. Now, that also didn't happen. And on top of that, over a decade into the existence of DuoLingo and billions of dollars in market value and investment and oceans of data, we're still here. Now, DuoLingo hasn't gone away and Google Translate also hasn't gone away. But the need for teachers still remains. So I decided I would research, why is this? Why in the midst of these incredible technological tools is there still today a need for language teachers? And I'm going to say long into the future, there will remain a need for English language teachers. By the way, if you're new to my channel here, my name is Fergus Fadden and I've been an English language teacher and teacher trainer of the CELTA course, TEFL courses, and indeed I am a coach who helps people through these courses and to become coaches and digital nomads themselves. If any of those things are what brought you to this channel, check out the link in the description below. It'll take you to my website where you can find so much more on that. But back to today's question, my research brought me to that great Russian linguist of the last century, Vygotsky. He says that language learning is not just an isolated process, but it's deeply social and cultural. And this reminds me of a story that I often tell to people, and then I'm often delighted and surprised in a way by how vividly people remember the story. It's a linguistic story related to the indigenous language of my own country, Ireland. So we are native English speakers, but we're also Gaelic speakers. That's the original language of the Irish. And a beautiful story that comes out of a kind of miserable situation revolves around the meaning of how to say, I understand and do you understand in the Gaelic language. Now, do you understand is an diggin tú, that's how you say it in Gaelic, and do you understand me is an diggin me, and I understand is diggum. So there's a little bit of Gaelic for you. So that's a little bit of context. Now, my country, the Irish people, there's a huge Irish diaspora in the world, and a big kind of movement out of the country happened in the 1850s, 1860s, when there was a huge drive of Irish to the United States. And when we arrived in those years, we were really coming from a miserable situation in Ireland. There had been a famine when our population 20, 30 years previous to the famine was 8-9 million people. And by the end of that century, it was around 2 or 3 million people. So we lost a huge amount of our population. But in the midst of that, there was kind of an exodus to many different countries, and in particular, the United States. And we arrived on the east coast of the United States. We came across the Atlantic Ocean. And because we were escaping such misery, we kind of found ourselves in kind of pretty poor conditions in New York and Boston and these cities that we were populating at the time. So we were living in slums and ghettos. And around the same time, well, the 1860s in particular, it was just after the American Civil War, and the Civil War was around the emancipation of the slaves. So once the slaves were emancipated, they started to migrate north into the United States. So we were arriving in these northeastern cities, Boston and New York, and the emancipated slaves were moving up to many cities, but those cities as well, New York and Boston. So we kind of came together in these situations, and as often happens in these kind of miserable situations, human beings have a wonderful way of making the best of things. And my culture, my country, my people are well known for being fond of a party, and we love playing music and singing and dancing and drinking and all of those things. So we would often be hanging out with these people who had arrived from the southern states after having been emancipated. And at the time, most Irish people were still native speakers of Gaelic. So we were having parties with these freed slaves, and we were trying to share our music. So we're fiddle players and singers and dancers. And I can imagine the situation where this Irish person is trying to share their music with a person who just came from the South, and they're trying to show it to them, to teach them. In that moment, they're asking a person, do you understand what I'm saying? So they're saying, on digging me. You know, you can imagine this freed slave doesn't necessarily speak any Irish or Gaelic at all. So they're kind of there, yeah, I get it. I dig you. I dig it. So they say that this expression in English, do you dig? I dig it. It comes from this coming together of the Irish people and those people who had migrated from the southern states after the Civil War in the United States. And I love this story because what have you got there? You've got the verb to understand, but you've got so much more. You've got history of peoples coming together in this unique place at a unique time in history, and then how that has rippled out and reverberated. The amount of times I've told this story just once to a person, and then that person is able to repeat the story with as much color and vibrance as I try to bring to it perfectly, days, weeks, months later. And it's not because they're memorizing word for word and sentence by sentence and grammatical point by grammatical point. No, not at all. They've had this deep interaction from person to person. So the learning, the language acquisition was not just about, here's a book, there's a guitar. No, it's imbued with its social and cultural weight. Vygotsky goes on to say that this process needs to be mediated by human beings, and he likened teachers to gardeners. Gardeners don't force the growth of the plant. Like they can't just say, grow. But what gardeners do is they create optimal conditions for the growth to happen. And that's really what we're doing as teachers. The student could just buy the book themselves and read through it and hopefully learn the language that way. But no, our job as teachers is to come along and kind of prune those branches and encourage growth through activities and feedback and error correction and interactions. And to add further weight to Vygotsky's deep insight, there's also what's known as the interaction hypothesis. And we can see this reflected in what we do as teachers and in the classroom. One of the things that the interaction hypothesis tells us is that we need to sometimes negotiate meaning. And, I've had this in my own life. I've seen it among students, in my classes, all over the place. And let me give you an example of that negotiation of meaning. When I lived in Brazil, there's so many examples of this that I can think of, but I used to go to kind of this diner on the corner of my street in Brazil, or at least in Sao Paulo where I lived, they're referred to as botecos. So it's kind of like a diner, and that's where you would go for, a coffee, something to eat. And at the time I used to be a cigarette smoker, I used to go and buy cigarettes. So, my first days, I didn't really speak Portuguese at all. And I was, in need of a coffee, and at the time a smoke. So I knew the verb to smoke, which was fumar, and I didn't know how to say a pack of cigarettes, which was, I found out later, it's a maço. I would go to this diner and say, eu quero fumar cigarro. I was able to say, I want to smoke a cigarette. And first of all, the guy just offered me a cigarette. I was like, no. Eu dinheiro. I was able to say this bad Portuguese. In the end, I was able to say it properly. Eu tenho dinheiro, cara. But I was able to show, no, I have money. And then through this kind of interaction with my terrible Portuguese and this gentleman who in the diner, he had no English, we were able to negotiate the meaning that in fact what I wanted was to give him money for maço de marlboro light. That was my favorite phrase to say, maço de marlboro light, which means a pack of Marlboro Light. And from there, it just went on and on. I learned in these little botecas the way that many people drank coffee was not just café. You can ask for café, which means coffee, but a lot of people love to drink what's called a pingado. And I was wondering, what is this pingado? And eventually I realized a pingado is just a little drop of milk. Again, this was, negotiated with me by the people in the diner asking me, what do I want? I was not sure what I wanted, but I was able to at least say coffee, café, and then they were able to show me different options. So this is something that you just can't get from Google Translate or DuoLingo or any of these apps. The apps lack that spontaneity, don't they? Another huge pillar in my own language learning adventure. I saw this happening in Portuguese and Spanish and French, all the languages that I've loved to learn. When I would learn to say something a little bit funny or unexpected, it would cause people to laugh. And then that would create more and more rapport between me and my interlocutor, the person I was speaking to. I'll give you another example. In French, the way to say that you're a little bit tipsy, the expression, at least that I learned, and maybe it's because I learned it from some French people from Brittany, which is kind of maritime region, they would say, je suis pas bas, très bas, or it could be, je suis très bas, pas bas. And what pas bas, très bas, what those words mean, it just means port and starboard, port board, starboard. And you think about the keel of a boat, and I'm a little bit port board, starboard. Now, we don't have that expression in English, although it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? If you were to say, oh yeah, I'm a little port, starboard, if that's the way you were describing your movement after having a few drinks, yeah, it kind of makes sense. But I acquired this expression pretty early on, hanging out with some of my French friends in Dublin, and they would take great joy in teaching me these expressions. Oh, Fergus, you can say this and that. But then when I would spontaneously use them, people would erupt in laughter because it's very unexpected to hear a person use such a, kind of niche, idiomatic expression. And what that would do is it would just encourage more and more rapport. It would encourage more connection between myself and the people that I was speaking to. And from there, a snowball effect was created. More and more language was just offered to me by the people I was speaking to because they would enjoy hearing my feeble, strange, accented attempts at saying these expressions that were so deep and cultural and social to them that the language acquisition would grow and grow and grow. So these are things that, again, DuoLingo is just not going to give you that. Google Translate is just not going to give you that. And again, you could say, well, maybe now Google Translate will have this etymological background of language. Sure, fine. I'm sure it could tell us when words and expressions were used in the 15th century and they went through a zenith in the 17th century and then they tailed off in the 19th century and they came back. Sure, maybe you can find all of this information on the internet. Absolutely. But it's not mediated by a human being. It's not mediated by the fun of hearing a person say that with a slightly strange accent in an unexpected, spontaneous moment. So let me know, are you a big Google Translate or DuoLingo user? Do you think that these are kind of enemies to our profession as English language teachers, or do you see them more as tools? Do you ever feel that maybe one day we will be replaced by an AI or an internet-based learning module? What is your experience with students who use these apps a lot? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Okay, if you haven't done so already, check the link in the description below for more resources, videos, e-learning courses, all of that good stuff over on my website. All that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next one.